Hey there, everybody. I hope you are all doing very, very well this September or whatever month you happen to be watching this video. I apologize for not having any new content up on this channel for a good few weeks. Septembers are historically very, very busy for me, and this September has just had a lot more spinning plates and moving parts in it than September's past. And so I've had to maybe strategize my time a bit differently. And in this video, I wanted to address a topic of conversation that is not new, but I've noticed it starting to pick up again and again in different corners of the online spiritual world I'm in conversations with people in real life, as well as with my own clients, understanding the difference between intuition and psychic ability, or being an intuitive versus being a psychic. What does it mean to be intuitive versus psychic? And I find this to be an interesting topic because, again, like I said, it's not new. This is a conversation that was had a lot, especially in the early to mid 2010s, but it had to do with almost sort of a move or a migration from using one type of term to another. Now I'm seeing a pendulous swing going the other way. Because back in 2014, 2015, I remember conversations where people were like, well, we're trying to not use the term psychic, or you shouldn't use the term psychic because it has this connotation and this connotation and that connotation. And now people are saying, I don't want to use the term intuitive, or I don't trust people who say intuitive or intuition, I trust people who say psychic. And so that's what I think we should do in this video, is talk about, well, what are these negative connotations? What do these words actually mean? And how do we use these terms effectively without having a lot of the emotional reasoning of the online spiritual zeitgeist contaminate them? I don't think taking pendulous swings between terms and deciding which one is going to be more fashionable than the other does honor to either of the terms, or serves anybody who is trying to figure this whole world out when it comes to their spiritual practice, whether they are working on themselves, or they are developing a certain skill, or they are a consumer and they are looking to get some kind of spiritual service or some kind of teaching. Now, as I was saying before, there was a point going on about 10 years ago where people were starting to move away from the term psychic. And the term psychic evoked a couple of negative connotations that made people feel almost this social, or I guess in some people's cases, commercial pressures to not use that word anymore. The word psychic started to evoke feelings of concern around the occult and the spooky and the paranormal and the supernatural, which is why I kept it. However, some people started to associate the term psychic with the shyster, right? The flim-flam artist, balderdash and chicanery, the fake psychic, the fake medium, the types of readers who would say, well, you have a family curse and it's going to cost you $2,000 to get it cleared. Or the fake psychic medium who will walk into a crowd of 200 people and say, I'm sensing somebody here with the letter M in their name and they have a relative who passed away. And I get that. That makes perfect sense because, well, those examples and those connotations came from somewhere. And there were people who did that. And unfortunately, there are still people, at least at the time of making this video, who still do that. But that also meant that a lot of people started to not trust the term psychic anymore. And I recall back in the earlier Scarlet Moon days, back in 2013 and early 2014, when people would say you can't call yourself a psychic because that's egotistical. You have to call yourself an intuitive. And I always thought that was kind of bizarre. Like, why exactly can't you call yourself psychic? If everybody's psychic, how come you can't say it? But I feel like those were just sort of, that's damaged journey jargon, so I'm not really going to spend a lot of time on that. Nowadays, though, people are trying to move away from the term intuitive and re-embrace psychic. People don't trust people who call it intuitive. They don't want to be called an intuitive, or people who say they have some kind of heightened intuition. It evokes the feeling of trenderism, somebody that is using a stand-in word, somebody who is bullshitting. Oh no, here comes the wounded working another spiritual side hustle, or here comes the Wolf of Wall Street, sell me this pen, con artist, seminar. It's all intuitive. Wake up, sheeple. Wounded yuppie shit. And so there's definitely some truth as to the origin of that negative association for that word as well. But just because words have certain associations, in this case, it does not necessarily mean that they are bad. And in fact, choosing to use a different word in this case, or whatever word you choose, it shouldn't matter what the connotation is if you are the one using it correctly, because you can always eventually prove people wrong. I've never really embraced the term intuitive myself. I feel like it doesn't describe me or my work very well at all. It just doesn't hit the mark. It never resonated with me. And when I say resonate, I don't mean that as sort of a substitute term for saying my approval. You know those types of people. I'm not talking about resonate as in I like it or not. It doesn't feel applicable. It doesn't evoke any kind of energy. It doesn't feel like it clicks, and so I just don't work with the term intuitive. I describe myself as a psychic, and hence why I tag a lot of my work with the term psychic. That being said, if you call yourself a psychic or you call yourself an intuitive, it doesn't really matter as long as you have the skill and the ability to back it up. But I think that maybe we need to help those who are now confused because of these pendulous swings know the difference, because there is a difference between being psychic and being an intuitive. And what you are, or what you want to offer the world, or what you're looking for, might need some clarity if you don't know the difference. So what exactly is an intuitive? Or what does it mean to be an intuitive? What does intuition actually mean itself? I normally don't defer to dictionary definitions all of the time, but in order to just kind of get to the root and build from there, we're going to defer to the North American Oxford Dictionary definitions of these terms. So intuitive, using or based on what feels to be true even without conscious reasoning. Instinctive, intuition, the ability to understand something immediately without conscious reasoning. So right there, a person might say, this sounds kind of psychic, this sounds very close to psychic, and to a certain degree, it certainly is. But I want to draw attention to one key word, instinctive. Intuition is ultimately the ability to hack your instincts, to create predictable models in your head or in your own life experience for how things go based on what you are able to draw or glean from the information that is being presented to you. It is, yes, in a sense, a way for you to create and understand probable outcomes from what you are assessing based on your instincts, and your instincts do not operate from a place of conscious reasoning. Now, does that mean that intuition or being an intuitive is not spiritual? I feel that the answer to that is kind of a yes and no at the same time. A yes with an if, or a no with a but. And the reason I put it that way is because, well, I do feel that we are all intuitive. I feel that we are all psychic. It's just that not everybody has good instincts. Not everybody has developed their instincts. And so a lot of what might be considered instinctual, depending on a person's development, may be coming from more of their memory or their own development, and therefore it's not necessarily a spiritual thing. However, a person's intuition and intuitive ability could be informed by more spiritual senses, but that would then just make it psychic. It would not make it intuitive. And I think that when we are looking at a situation where a person is just calling themselves an intuitive or saying they're using their intuition, I don't like to assume automatically that this is something that's being informed by a sixth sense, or ESP. ESP is also a term that isn't really thrown around very much, but let's bring it back. ESP was a lot more popular back in the 90s, which is when I cut my teeth on all of this. And so, but extrasensory perception, sixth sense, that kind of thing. It could be that their intuition is also informed by that, which of course is changing how their instincts operate. But that, of course, is on a case-to-case basis, and we don't know automatically if that's what's going on with that particular person. And if they don't know, we don't want to project that onto them. They are the ones who need to discover that for themselves. But to me, when I think of the term intuitive or intuition, I think of somebody who knows how to hack their instincts, or somebody who is familiar enough with the instincts of another person, or maybe the predictable models of different types of social behavior or even spiritual behavior to a certain degree. And so let's look at the definition of psychic. Relating to or denoting faculties or phenomena that are apparently inexplicable by natural laws, especially involving telepathy or clairvoyance, or any of the other clairs, such as clairaudience, clairalience, clairsentience, claircognizance, and so on. And we'll talk about those in maybe another video. This also, of course, would include things like mediumship. Psychic ability, or to be psychic, is to be tapped into something that goes outside the bounds of the natural law of the physical world, or what we would consider to be the physical world condition. You are getting your information in a much more multidimensional way, possibly gleaning this by going outside the bounds of this reality, which makes sense in situations like, say, myself, where you talk to spirits, or you are predicting the future, employing prophecy in some way, or for people who are telepaths. And each and every ability, of course, is going to be unique to the person, depending on what they discover and what they nurture. But everyone has the opportunity to be psychic actively, even if they're not awake in terms of what their psychic abilities are. But these go outside the bounds of intuition as well, because intuition is ultimately you hacking your instincts, right? Intuition is bound by the realm of physical natural law. Maybe your intuition is informed by your instincts as it relates to your genetic memory, right? What's passed down through your family, or your ability to create predictable models in your head when it comes to the information that you're getting. But you're still working within the bounds of the physical world. Sometimes your intuition may be informed by a psychic ability, but that psychic ability is actually separate from what you are doing when you are being an intuitive, right? It's sort of adding in as a supplement. It's not the same thing. And I feel that this can be very helpful in situations, because I've also noticed that when people are going for a psychic and they're getting an intuitive, somebody who's hacking their instincts, they're not really getting what they want. I've got clients that have come to me that were looking for psychic readings, psychic work, spiritual communications, prophecy, magic, and they've tried getting that from people who called themselves intuitives, but these intuitives were really just more like operating as, well, instinct hackers, right? They were kind of coming in as counselors. They were coming in as coaches. They were coming in as people that were not capable or employing any kind of psychic ability to give them a real psychic reading. And they marketed themselves as a psychic, but they just substituted the term intuitive in. And so you got to know what you're going to get, and not all psychics, for that matter, are good working intuitives, especially when it comes to what people, at the time of recording this video anyway, expect from intuitives. I think that a lot of people have started to associate intuitive with a coach or with a counselor, especially when it comes to sorting out things that are either ineffable or confusing or otherwise just hard for the client or the querent to figure out. An intuitive is where people go for clarity. I think that the best thing that we can do going forward is be a lot more clear and a lot more honest with how our abilities work. And so people looking for intuitive help who are going to psychics are also not getting exactly what they want or what they're looking for. For instance, for myself, when you come to me for a reading, if you haven't filled out one of my forms before, because I do an entry form, I pretty much force you to ask a question and know what you want me to talk about. Because the way my abilities work is that as soon as you actually give me a question I can work with, I will be able to pretty much write you a whole frickin' book about it and tell you where it's going, what it's made of, and what's happening next, and how this is going to happen here, and where you need to go next, and what you need to do, or if you need to go back, a couple months and figure this thing out. I will help you, but that is because I'm employing my psychic abilities. Of course, my intuition or my intuitive skills are not going to help me do that, because my intuitive skills are not going to tell me what you needed to do 6 months ago, or what's coming back 2 months ago, or what you need to be ready to assess in 3 weeks from now, right? That's not intuitive, that's totally psychic. But for me, I can't really be the guy who sorts out your thoughts and feelings while also tapping into all of that if I'm going to do a good job. Otherwise, they're going to keep getting confused and feel screwed over. Like I said, I can't tell you how many people have come to me pissed off at intuitives claiming they were psychic, or intuitives in general who claimed to have abilities that they weren't employing. And basically were just going through kind of a life coaching counselor session when they were really looking for somebody who was an actual psychic and an actual magical practitioner, because that's how they branded themselves. And I wonder, okay, was this person a scam artist? Was this person just following a trend? Or maybe the practitioner themselves was actually deluded into thinking that this is what this was all about. But that shouldn't have happened to them. And I think also, I've had people myself that I'm like, I don't think we're going to be a good match, because it sounds like you're looking for an intuitive to help you get clarity on something that you don't understand, and you don't need psychic work. You're looking for somebody to kind of help you with their hacked instinct, to help you hack your instinct because you don't know how to use your instincts, or you're not getting a good understanding of the situation, or you need too much clarity. How can I do my psychic work for you when I need clarity from you and you have no clarity yourself? And the same thing can go for your teachings and for your classes. So I hope that this kind of helps you out a little bit. I understand that this is a huge topic, but I'm noticing on the recorder here that we're already at 20 minutes for the recording. And so I do want to make sure I get this up to you so you do have some new content on this channel. We will come back. I do want to talk a little bit more about different psychic abilities and how people don't have the same psychic abilities, and when it comes to how they work and operate in the everyday, how people often get them confused, and what we can do to better understand ourselves and our abilities so that we don't assume there's something else, right? Because when we know what we're working with, then we can do a good job by them, but that'll have to be for another day. So anyway, I'm going to wrap up here. This was just a little chat to kind of get the conversation rolling. I welcome video responses from those of you out there who have your own YouTube channels, because I would love to see the online spiritual community come back to its golden age. And so let's make it happen ASAP. And if you did enjoy this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I appreciate it. Of course, engagement helps this channel grow, especially comments in the down bar below. Just don't make an echo chamber. Have good conversations. And I will see you all again soon.